So yes, this is our Dark Knight Rises tasty special episode, as we cued a couple weeks ago. But first we're going to do is start talking about the Batman comic book, just to give you a little brief history on the comic book.
Refresh me, why was this the tasty special?
Because you said the Dark Knight Rises special, and it sounded like it was something tasty.
Oh, right,
like
the sandwich with pastrami. Right,
Yeah.
okay. No, I'm back. All right, my own joke. We're referencing my jokes. I like this.
Yeah.
All right. For those of you out there who aren't familiar with the comic history going into this movie, this is going to be the third installment of Nolan's Batman trilogy, and the final installment at that. But before we get into all that, I want to just briefly discuss where this version come from, the inception of this. The original idea for this movie is supposed to take place about 8 years after The Dark Knight, which we'll get into all the history in that. But that is similar to a comic done by famed writer-artist in the comic book world, Frank Miller. And he did a graphic novel called The Dark Knight Returns. And it's about Batman turning 50. And Miller genuinely admits to the fact that the whole point of him doing that comic book was the fact that he turned 30 and Batman was perpetually 29. He goes, so I wanted Batman to be older than me again. And he did that, and he made just a fabulous piece of art. It was just brilliant, and it was about Batman's been in retirement for a little while. Gotham goes to heck again,
Right.
and he's forced to come back, and things are even more dangerous,
Right.
and it's taken to another level. And it looks like this film is definitely going to mirror
Right.
that. And it's the same way when I found out for Dark Knight that they had handed Heath Ledger The Killing Joke, which was the first time Alan Moore had done the Joker and took Joker to this level.
Right.
I knew we were okay. Same thing with this book. The second I heard that this book was what was spawning the whole idea, the genesis for this,
Yeah.
I was like, we're good. We
Yeah.
should be fine.
Which is a great thing about Nolan,
Yeah.
which I guess we can go into Nolan now.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead, pass it.
Nolan, which is a British filmmaker.
He is a gender.
He's a British filmmaker. He is a British filmmaker. Okay. Start out with a little short jitterbug.
Yeah, and let's just briefly talk about that because it's gonna go down the line with this. But it's a perception-based short film,
Right.
And that's what Nolan's really
Right.
big on, is the idea of changing perception.
Right. Because his follow-up was his first feature, which was a black and white film called I think
Following.
Following,
Yeah.
which is about a guy who follows people around.
Yeah, and it turns out that he is actually the mouse.
And then we move on to his actual breakout film, Memento.
Yeah,
which is
Guy
the-
Pearce, which is the short-term memory loss. And
the film that's told backwards.
Essentially, yeah, because and not only that, every time you move back a scene and get more of the history, the film almost makes less sense. Like you have to go back and look at it again because everyone's role keeps changing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just. I mean, that's the thing. He's not just a director. He's also a writer.
And that also, yeah, which is why he was so hesitant to even do a sequel to Batman Begins or the third one. He goes, I'm only going to do it if I feel like I can top myself or do something new. Which is we're always preaching on this show that's the point of filmmaking.
Right.
So.
And then after that, he did Insomnia with Al Pacino, which was kind of a remake of the original Insomnia that came out.
They're up in Alaska during
Yeah.
the all light time, and they're trying to solve a murder, but
Right.
it's an inadvertent murder, and it's not one of his more popular films, but still along that perception
I
base.
saw it, and I liked it. I mean, it really did. It was, and that's the thing. Continuing with his ideas, like his films are like the psychological. After that, Insomnia gave him Batman Begins.
Which is really interesting because under the radar, no one was happy about this because we
Right.
were just coming off the Schumacher Batman, which is the Batman and Robin with George
which was
Clooney.
1997, and
Yeah.
Batman Begins was 2004, 2003.
Somewhere right around there,
Yeah.
yeah, early 2000s.
And people were just like, the guy who did Memento.
What do we have? What do we need another Batman for? What's
Yeah.
going on with this? And much mockery,
Right.
a lot of hype, a lot of underground, and then when people saw it, everybody shut up.
Right.
That was pretty much it. And then after Batman Begins, we go into The Prestige, I believe.
Yes, which was
Another Christian Bale.
he brought Christian Bale back, but he also Hugh Jackman in, which was pretty nice. Hugh Jackman I thought did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And of course Michael Caine as well.
Nolan, you find this more of European directors,
Right.
like French and British directors. Once they know you can act and they can put you in any role, you're their go-to guy. And he has like this backstage cast that's always ready and raring to go. So we got Prestige, and then I believe immediately following Prestige,
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight, which is just blew up, and like we saw, superhero movies starting to get actual critical acclaim, like people going, we were blown away. I mean, everyone's going in this movie. Again, it's funny because we keep going into these movies with such trepidation, where it's just like, oh, we need another Batman movie? Oh, that was awesome. Oh, he's going to do the Joker. Oh, I don't know. Can anyone beat Jack Nicholson? And then everybody walking out going, Jack who?
Yeah. And then after that, he did his big baby.
Inception, yeah, which is he referred to as, this is what I've been building to my entire career, was this perception-based movie. And he goes, I finally have the cast, I have the
There's
resources.
the technology for
And not only that, he coming off of like an Academy Award for The Dark Knight. I mean, it was, you know, posthumous for Heath Ledger, but I mean, we're talking actual recognition for this guy. And everyone's looking at Nolan going, you're the guy.
Right.
You are the guy now.
Well, I say technology, but the weird thing about Nolan is he hates green screen, CGI.
Well, he hates gimmicky things
Right.
like that make this film look worse.
But
And
he
that, like,
does-
and this even happened with Two-Face too, because remember they didn't want to use CGI at first in
Right.
Dark Knight. If we added something to the face, it wouldn't look like a burn.
Right.
So he goes,
But
so we had to use CGI there.
Because you can take away.
Exactly. And he goes, I didn't want to add because it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, this is the level of thought he's given to something like this, because when he goes in with his story, he's writing it, he's directing it, he knows well. So, but then,
But then after that, of course, we now are at The Dark Knight Rises.
yeah,
After Inception.
yeah,
you know?
and it's just,
Well, let me just talk a little bit about Nolan. Other than that, the CGI
Yeah.
stuff, like he has done green screen and type stuff when he needed to. But when we talk, I know we're going to talk about Dark Knight Rises a little bit. In The Dark Knight Rises, there is a new bat helicopter, and now in most movies that would have just been CGI in. But he did is he put this life-size bat helicopter thing on a rigging and drove it around like the streets of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And filmed scenes.
well, like even in Batman Begins, the Batmobile was a functioning, they used
Right.
it as a pace car in a NASCAR event. Like, it's a
Exactly.
functing vehicle.
Yeah.
It doesn't do everything you see on
What I'm saying
screen.
is that this thing
That's
is
the
in the
movie
air.
magic. Yeah, that's the movie
You know,
magic.
they just went back and erased what was holding it
Exactly,
up. But
no.
easily, most movies would just say, nah, just put a CGI it.
Yeah, thank
He's
God.
like, no, I want something, because not only that,
Thank God
he
this wasn't a
knows that,
Transformer movie, because then it would have been all CGI.
because he knows that with something physically there, it's much easier also for the actors to act.
Yeah,
You know?
it's just like, you're not going, all right, big thing up in the sky, oh my God, and it's just
Yeah.
like, no,
Yeah.
big thing up in
You
the
see
sky,
that, and you
holy
see
God.
that thing, and I've seen it like a lot of pictures, like there's spy photos of it. It's huge. So when you see that as an actor, you can relate to the grandiose of who Batman is. And
The thing with, I think with the technology we're going to is the IMAX in this as well.
oh yes,
If you want to just briefly mention, because he took a giant step up in this.
He started the IMAX with Batman Begins. That's when
Yeah.
he first started, but he did.
It was like 2 scenes.
Yeah. Then Prestige, I don't remember him doing that much with the Prestige either. But when The Dark Knight is the real big one, like he started in The Dark Knight, I want to say it's 40% to 50%.
It's just under half.
Right.
If it isn't
Yeah.
half, it's just under.
And then he did a lot of it, of course, in Inception.
Yeah.
And now this movie is, I want to say, 3/4 or more.
Which is
the
why
IMAX.
you're seeing, I believe, ticket sales and IMAXs are sold out.
Right.
At least for the starting
Now,
shows.
for people who don't understand what IMAX is, for film print, to understand film, there's 35 millimeter. Let's say it's like this big.
which is kind of
Right.
unfortunately going away.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Well, no, it's 35 millimeter still being used because it's
It
still
still
better
could be
than HD.
No, it is, but unfortunately, a lot of places are
Right.
steering away from it.
But let's say a 35 millimeter print's this big. An IMAX print, the actual film, is like this big. So hence why you have those bigger screens, because it's more of a surface area, so more details.
yeah, it's about like you have like a 50,
Yeah.
60-foot screen.
Right.
Some of these things.
But the drawback to using IMAX is, which is why the whole film's not, is it's a huge camera. Like a normal
well, to
35
fit that print.
Right,
yeah.
the 35 millimeter camera is like this big, like a normal camera. Even big like red cameras are like.
Even the cameras we
But
use here.
IMAX is like you can't handheld an IMAX.
No, it's like hooked
You-
up to a giant rig.
Right.
Yeah.
So if there's scenes that can't be finagled in small spaces or just the way there is, you have to use it.
In fact, for those of you who are curious, check out your bonus disc on Dark Knight, which I know a lot of you barely take out disc 2, but go ahead. It's actually some interesting stuff from time to time. And they have an IMAX feature in there where Nolan talks about, like, this is the future, this is how we did it, and they even show you how they shot the IMAX sequences. Very interesting stuff.
And what's interesting, IMAX has actually been around since the mid '90s.
Oh yeah, no.
Like this, it's
usually you saw it like a
I think I just remembered it now. 35 millimeters, 35. IMAX is 70 millimeter.
Sounds about right.
That's double 35 millimeter, basically. So that's just much more detail, much more movie magic, you know.
So yeah, definitely check out the Dark Knight Rises part. If you can see this movie in IMAX, it's definitely going to be worth it because like he's pushing for this technology.
We're mostly going to talk about the first 2 Batman movies he's done, just to kind of give you an idea of
Yeah.
what he's done story-wise
All right, we'll be right back.
at Shamit Movies.